This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, July 22nd, 2024, and we're so glad you can join us. In today's show, it is the latest edition of Between the Pods. Today's episode will feature a conversation with Lucas De Bruin, a research agronomist with the Iowa Soybean Association. It is time now for our closing market summary.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
On Monday, here at the end of trading, we are joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, what did we see take place in the grains today?
Well, grains really showed some strength today. It's almost as exciting as the political arena, but we did see some nice strength. It was anticipated maybe that we'd see some lower trade overnight based on what's happening politically and previously with Trump being in office wasn't the best for farmers based on what he's done on tariffs, but the opposite was true. Now we did have a tender for 240,000 metric tons of corn that was issued with the deadline of Wednesday to fill, and that was issued by the Philippines. So it's a deadline of Wednesday to get it filled. Now, it's going to be some competition there in order to get that tender. But we did have 133,000 metric tons of corn sold to Mexico as well, announced overnight. So business is being done. Now, on the other side, as fund traders trimmed their record short positions on the last commitment of traders report that was released on Friday by 10,587 contracts. So is that now suggesting that maybe we're going to see funds continue or managed money continue to liquidate some of their short positions? I mean, they pushed it into a record shorts. Maybe it was a little bit too early, not knowing how the crop is going to be coming through the system. I mean, there's a lot of variability of condition out there. But overall, the conditions are good. But, will some of the maybe return of some hot weather, depending on pollination schedules, is that going to have further impact, adding to some of the prevent plant and the flooding that could trim that crop a little bit? Well, it's too early to tell that at this point in time. Now, the corn crop condition is expected at 68% good to excellent this afternoon. That's compared to 68% a week ago and 57% a year ago. Soybean crop conditions also at 68%. Versus last week at 68% and 54% a year ago. So when you look at just those numbers, there's no reason to really think that much of the crop is going to be trimmed from the projections they have right now. Spring wheat conditions are 76% good to excellent versus 77% last week and 49% a year ago. So the expectations are for quite a bit better spring wheat crop conditions, and winter wheat is at 87% harvested versus 71% last week and 68% a year ago. So plenty of wheat coming into the system at this point in time. Now, export sales, I should say, not sales, inspections, this morning showed corn at 38.2 million bushels compared to 42.9, or actually about 43 million a week ago. Soybeans at 12.1 million bushels versus 6.443 million a week ago, and wheat at 8.744 million bushels versus 23.8 million bushels a week ago. So wheat really took it on the chin. Good for beans. mediocre for corn. That probably didn't, again, have a lot of impact on movement today, but I think we were kind of caught up in the euphoria of the market, the strength overnight, probably a little more buying interest, some short covering took place. Now, if we do see some fun short covering, that generally runs 2 or 3 days. So this is day one. Will we be able to see another 2 or 3 days taking place? Well, maybe crop conditions will have some influence on that. Just trade perception. On the soybean side, too, on Saffras and Hokkaido, estimated the Brazilian crop at 115.5 million metric tons for this year. Now they have early estimates for next year at 117.5 million metric tons for next year. So they're looking at continuing to grow as far as their production is concerned. And their expectations are for their exports to increase 10 million metric tons. So they're continue to grow. They're going to continue to try to take more market share. And that's something that we need to be cognizant of that fact, and we need to compete. And that's going to be a little bit difficult as we move forward, unless we see some kind of a weather event that happens in Brazil to really see much higher prices than we're looking at right now. Now, on the other side with the soybean market, the EU is cracking down on Chinese biodiesel imports. They've been dumping biodiesel onto the EU market, undercutting the price, which hurting their industry and their farmers there. So they're cracking down on that now as well. So that may have an impact on some of the strength we've recently seen in the soy oil market, but it's too early to tell that as well. But we can just be thankful for the fact that we're seeing some strength coming through the market today.
On the other side of the ag markets, on Friday, the USDA published the cattle on feed report. How did the livestock complex today react?
Well, they looked past, I think, some of the numbers on the report, especially on the on-feed number being at 101% from last year. So we got higher numbers. We kind of looked past that. We did see strength coming through in the cattle market. Not a huge amount. We didn't get a huge reaction to the upside off of placement numbers being down at 93% versus the average trade estimate of 97%. That was kind of anticipated. It came within the range of estimates because in the May numbers, or the report in June for the May numbers, we did see a large increase in placements. So the anticipation was we saw a lot of them there. We'd see less of them coming in the month of June. And that's what we saw. Now, it was less than what the average trade estimate was, but still within the range of the average trade estimate, because they were looking at 89.9% to 102%. So even though it was lower, it wasn't a huge surprise. So we didn't see quite the strength as some had anticipated off of those numbers. Had we not seen the larger placements, the previous report, that would have been a big deal this time, but it kind of took it in stride. Now, we did see cash cattle trade last week, steady for southern cattle and $2 lower for dressed cattle in the north. It was good that southern traded steady, but some of the direction of box beef recently may not support an increase in the cash this week. So the early anticipations are for lower cash trade coming through this week. Now that goes back, what we could look at marketings on the report. We're at 91%. That was a little bit lower than the 91.8 that was anticipated. So if we continue to see what we're seeing now, we may see some lower marketings in the month of July. And that maybe just making an anticipation here that maybe the top has been in the market at least for a period of time. We are seeing some slower demand coming through, which we sometimes do in the summertime, the dog days of summer. And we are seeing that in the box beef prices. Now, box beef today was mixed, at least in the morning report. We were down 15 cents in choice, up $1.29 in select. But the last few weeks, we've really seen some pressure coming in on box beef prices, indicating slower demand. On the hog side, had a nice rebound over the last 2 weeks. Again today, seeing some real strength in the October, December contracts, and later until we get back past mid next year, then we were actually slightly lower, focus being on the closer months. We did see some further short covering on the commitment of traders report that was released on Friday. Nothing to a great extent, but some continued short coverings. The market might be overdone to the downside, and so funds are going to just try to trim some of those positions a little bit. Now, what was really nice was the National Direct morning report showed the cash market up $1.51. It was anticipated that might be lower this morning, which generally it is on Mondays. It's up $1.51, and cutouts were up $2.70. So if both of those hold through the end of the day, might be a little more idea or some thinking by the trade that we are going to continue to see some gains as far as demand is concerned.
Robin, thanks so much for the information. Always appreciate it. What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
They can give me a call directly at 877-256-3253 or go to our website, agmarket.net. There's an 844 number there. People are there that will pick up the phone, answer any questions you might have, or if you would like to look at doing some business with us to protect your prices, we're there for you.
Thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it as always. Have a great week.
All right. Thank you. It's always a pleasure, and you take care.
Thank you to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Let's turn now to the closing numbers, which can be found anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com. September corn closes up 9 3/4 at $4.25. August soybeans up 20 1/2 at $11.17 3/4. August soybean meal up 6.80 at $3.4360. August soybean oil up 44 cents at 47 even. Chicago wheat up 5 1/4 at 5.48 even. Minneapolis wheat up 13 even at 6.22 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat up 1 3/4 at 5.71 3/4. September oats up 8 1/2 at 3.45 1/4. On the Merc, August live cattle up 82 cents at 183.92. August feeder cattle up 80 cents at 256.40. August lean hogs up 80 cents at 92.37. August pork cutout up 37 cents at 103.12. Class 3 milk is up 17 cents at 20.15. That does it for our market coverage here today. It is time now to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. And up next, it is the latest edition of Between the Pods.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM, and it is time now for Between the Pods. In today's episode, I'm joined by Lucas De Bruin, research agronomist with the Iowa Soybean Association. We're going to discuss agronomic issues around the state this growing season.
It's time to go between the pods with the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network and the Iowa Soybean Association. For the next year, we will explore the ways Iowa-grown soybeans are making a difference at home and around the world. Now, here's your host of Between the Pods, Mark Magnuson.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm here with Lucas De Bruin. He is a research agronomist with the Iowa Soybean Association. He covers cropping districts 6 and 9. And Lucas, that's kind of talking about southeast Iowa and east central Iowa?
Yeah, so I'm kind of Benton County to the Mississippi River and south down to Missouri is the area that I cover for, the research.
And we're talking about the agronomic issues that we've seen so far this season, kind of some of those pressures that farmers have been dealing with. In your area specifically, what have you seen so far this year?
Yeah, so down or over in my area, there hasn't been a lot, that I would say has been of huge concern. The biggest thing I would say is nitrogen has been a big concern for guys this spring. We got a lot of moisture early, so if you fall applied it, They're doing some nitrate testing to see if they need to side dress, or even if they do side dress, maybe bumping that rate up a little bit.
So first things first, if you think you have those concerns, just go in with testing right away to make sure that you lost that nitrogen if you're concerned about it?
Yeah, to be agronomically sound, it's always good, to verify that, if you don't need to over-apply it, then you're just wasting money. And so pull a test, see where your levels are at, and if you need some, put it out there.
And Lucas, has that been the case for most of the state with how wet it's been this spring?
I would say that's probably a yes.
And then that brings to another question in things that I've been thinking a lot about this year. Two things. First of all, the off-season not being as cold this year, not getting those extreme low temperatures that kill off a lot of those insects that we worry about. And then, like we've said, all of the moisture we've gotten this season, does that set things up for more pressures throughout the year?
I think so, yeah. Definitely the moisture early spring can bring around other diseases this fall, some rots, root rots, and other things like that. So definitely want to keep an eye out for there. I know tar spot has been spotted in my district, so that's another thing we'll want to keep an eye on going forward. But, if you had it there last year in your fields, it's there. So definitely want to keep an eye on that.
And that's another thing I don't always remember when I'm thinking about agronomy and all the things that go into it, is that, yes, you might not be dealing with one pressure one year or the next, but it could still be in your field. It could be at a different level, but it could still be located in your field. How difficult is that to deal with as an everyday farmer?
There's plenty of hurdles to jump through. You just got to always be aware of other challenges. There's definitely guys will know one field has a higher pressure of something than another, and you plan accordingly, I would say, early on to adjust for that.
And where we are with soybeans so far this year, what should farmers be thinking about in their minds as potentially things they need to use for management practices this year, or just be thinking about?
Yeah, a lot of fertility's already been out, so that's out. But definitely the disease, just keep scouting, watching that. Look out for insects as well, because once you see them, for insects, got to keep a close eye on. Once it gets to that threshold, you want to be able to pull the trigger and get that taken care of. And the diseases, you want to be on top of that, because if you wait too long, you'll be behind the gun on that.
And what is your favorite scouting method, your preferred scouting method? Is it every day? Is it every week? What would you kind of give for guidelines?
I'd say once a week. I don't know if I could walk every field every day, but yeah, once a week if you're out there, just kind of getting random spots throughout the field and just checking how things are.
So Lucas, is there anything else you'd like to let our viewers, our listeners know about when we think about what we could be dealing with agronomic-wise this year, and kind of just thinking about the rest of the growing season?
I think just keep a sharp eye out, stay focused and cognitive of what's going on everywhere.
He's Lucas De Bruin. He is with the Iowa Soybean Association, research agronomist. Lucas, thank you so much for the time here on Between the Pods, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you to Lucas De Bruin of the Iowa Soybean Association for joining today's show. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And you can find all of our video content and previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. Also, make sure and check out our daily Iowa Ag Matters podcast. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, Quentin Slater, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.